So hello students, I hope everybody who's watching this is doing fine. And today we are starting with a very interesting topic of class 9th, that is matter around us. Okay, so we are going to deal the introduction of it. So let's together explore the subtopics of it, that is physical nature and characteristics of nature. Okay. Now, what exactly matter is? So let's not start with matter. Let's think of some examples which we see around every day. Any substance, anything which we see around us. So it can be a book, right? It can be a book. It can be a balloon that is filled with gas. A lot of gases, right? So filled with gases. Then we see water, right? We see oil and a bunch of things, trees, animals, right? So if I say everything which you are seeing in this world, okay, that is made up of nothing but matter, right? It is made up of matter. Now, what exactly matter is then? So we can define matter as something which has mass and it occupies space. Okay. So let's say, for example, here I have my phone in my hand. Okay. So is it a matter? Yes, because it has a certain mass, right? And it is going to occupy a little bit of space. Okay. Right. So anything which occupies space and mass. Now, if I give you example of air, so do you think air is a matter? You can think it as a matter or maybe not, right? You might be confused here that what exactly it is, but I will suggest or I'll say that it is a matter. Okay, why is it a matter? Because once you are filling it in a balloon, okay, the balloon is being filled with the or inflated with the, you can say, air, right? So now it is, the air is basically occupying the space which was present in a balloon, right? So it occupies space, air occupies space. Now, if you'll try to weigh a balloon, okay, let's not try to weigh a balloon. Maybe let's try to have a cylinder, which is there in our houses. Okay. If you try to weigh those cylinders without, you can say the gases, okay, then, or any other sort of cylinders, if you can imagine. So if you'll weigh them, they'll weigh something else like A, let's say. And when you will fill it with air and then you will try to, weigh it, it'll be at, like, for example, B kgs. Okay, or if we want to have a number, let's say a cylinder which is not filled with air would be, let's say, 10 kg. But if you're filling it with air, it can become 11 kg, 15 kgs, right? That whole cylinder. So that means air also has mass and it occupies space, right? So anything in this world which has mass and can occupy space is going to be matter. Now, a very quick question which I want to ask you is love, right? The motherly love which mothers, pamper us with all the time. Is it a matter? Is the sound which we listen every day, the traffic, horns and honks and the chirping of the birds, is it matter or not? And the smell, the good food which is being cooked at home, is it matter or not? Or not exactly the food, the smell of the food. Okay. So do think about it while we are, proceeding with the lesson. And by the end, you'll get your answer, but you have to be thinking as well, meanwhile. Okay. Now, what exactly matter is made up of? Just for example, we have a wall, okay? And the wall is made up of bricks, right? Like this, bricks. So the unit of a wall would be brick, right? So here, if I say there is a matter, anything, like for example, let's say a sugar cube is there, okay? We can take a look here as well, okay? So if you're looking at the, a sugar cube, you will see that if we'll try to break it into small pieces, as many pieces as we would like, okay, after a certain point, we won't be able to break it. Okay, and that small certain particle, okay, the piece would be called as tiny particle. So particles, you can say particles combine together to make up the or to make matter. Okay, right? Okay, so moving ahead. So let's imagine an experiment. Okay, here let's take a glass of water. You can imagine you might have done it while making lemonade or something, right? So try adding a spoonful of salt to it. Now once you are doing it, you will see once you start stirring it, after a certain point you will see that the salt is completely dissolved and you are unable to see the salt. So the salt disappeared magically. So is it magic? I don't think so, right? It is science. So where did the salt go exactly? Because salt is made up of very tiny particle, and I'll explain you that the particles have space in between them. So the water particles, basically imagine this is water particles, okay, and they are arranged like this. So the salt gets dissolved in between those small spaces, tiny spaces, because salt is very, tiny, so that it gets, disappeared in those spaces. That's why you will also notice that there is no overflow of water. Suppose if you are adding stone here, okay, let's add stone in water, big stone, like this. Then what happens? The water will, rise above the glass. If we are imagining it in a glass, it will rise above the glass, right? And it will overflow. The water will start overflowing. But if you are adding tiny particles like salt particles, which are very small, they go inside the available spaces between the particles of water molecule, these water molecules, okay? And in between that, the NaCl salt will go. Okay, so this define another characteristic, you can say, of matter, that we know matter is, very small particle, tiny particle, right? And every matter is made up of, you can say, particles. Now, another characteristics of a particle would be, or matter would be, that the particles of matter would be having space between them. They can have very large spaces, they can have moderate spaces, or very closely packed particles could be there. According to the arrangement of the particle, we decide the state of matter, whether it is going to be a solid, it is going to be a liquid, or is it going to be a gas. Okay, so this we'll see in later slides as well, or classes as well. Okay, now particles are continuously moving. Another characteristics. Okay, so they need space, they have space basically, and they are continuously moving. That means a particle, even if you're thinking, right? For example, this is a, suppose if you're using a laptop, okay, to have this class, or maybe a phone. So these particles are like this. I'm making it a bigger one, but it is not so big. Okay, these particles are like this. And even though your laptop is not moving, okay, these particles are always in motion, like left, right, up, down, like this. Okay, so they are buzzing with a lot of energy. Okay, they are constantly moving and constantly vibrating. Once they are given enough favorable, you can say, situation, they can move ahead also. Okay, so what exactly diffusion is? You have to learn a new term here. Diffusion is the movement of particles from one area or higher concentration of area to the lower, to be precise. Okay, so for example, the smell of the food, okay, or the perfume. If you spray a perfume, okay, after a certain point in your home, maybe your parents will say, oh, you have put a lot of deodorant. Okay, the smell is spreading everywhere in the room, right? So why is it? Because when you were, taking the can and putting that perfume, spraying it, right, after a certain point, the particles of the gases started moving in the air and spreading out from the higher concentration, that means where the particle was more in number, to the lower concentration where the particle number is less. And this process of movement of particles from a higher concentration area to lower is called as diffusion. Okay. Now, let's move ahead. Okay, so particles attract each other. Okay, they do not just randomly move, they are attracting each other and they keep holding each other. That's why your whole object is not going anywhere into, they are not, degrading into particles. Because if suppose this particle moves here, this side, and this is trying to move here, and the bond breaks between them, so what will happen? Everything will shatter, right? But this is not the case. Particles attract each other and keep holding on to each other even if they are like buzzing. So for example, like maybe in childhood you used to play chain. Okay, that is something where you hold hands of each other and then run, right? So you can imagine that two people are holding each other's hand, they are pulling each other away also, but they are still holding the hands, so they are not going away. So particles attract each other. Particles do not just randomly move. Okay, they do not move randomly, they also have a special attraction, a force that pulls them together. The strength of this attraction determines the state of matter. Now, how hold they are holding on to each other, how tight they are holding on to each other, that is going to determine whether it is going to be a liquid, a solid, or a gas. Okay. Now, so far, whatever we have studied, I hope you will be able to apply into these questions. So, a few questions I have put for you. Try answering it yourself. Okay. So, why doesn't a glass overflow when you add water? I have answered this already, right? Because there are spaces in between the particles, right? Which diffuses faster, whether it is a perfume or salt in water? Again, one concept which I would like to take here a little bit, just for explanation. So in gases, things diffuse faster. So diffusion, you can say, diffusion in gases is faster or more, okay, than diffusion in any other state, or maybe diffusion in liquid and followed by diffusion in solid. Okay, so this concept again we'll deal in the classes which are in depth. Okay, and the last question is, why can gas be compressed easily but not solids? So all these questions, I hope you are able to answer it, and if not, then we'll study in depth about these questions. Okay, so hope to see you in the future classes at Urban Pro. Okay, and the answer to your question would be, which I asked you earlier, right? Is love a matter? Is sound a matter? Is smell a matter or not? No, these things are not matter. Love is actually an emotion which people feel. Sound is an energy, okay? Not a matter. Okay, we cannot weigh sound, right? So that is not a matter. A smell is basically, again, is a sense, you're sensing or feeling the smell, okay? So that is smell, right? So none of these were matter. Okay, I hope you understood everything, and do contact me through my Urban Pro profile if you would like to study more. Thank you so much.